smarter than him.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's no way.
Okay. Easy on. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for the sick, handicapped, recently departed, and military personnel of our community. Please be seated. Roll call.
Mr. Henderson?
Here.
Mr. Petroselli?
Here.
Mr. Colosimo? Here. Mr. Verducci? Here. Mr. Verducci? I said Gallarducci. Mr. Strzelski? Here. Mr. Maloli? Here. Mayor Copeland? Here. Solicitor McDermott? Here. Engineer Brett? Here. I'm Joe Coward. Chief King? Chief Costain? Director Miller?
Here. Okay, public comment. Bob Fryer.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys. I just wanted to,
Excuse me 1 second, Bob. Take some.
Yeah, just let her in.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
can,
From here now.
you want me to stand over there?
No, you're fine. I thought somebody was trying to
I
get in.
just wanted to, this is what recognize, which you all know. This is a drawing of the six to eight roads leading into Bridgeville from the region. You can identify, it's, from this distance, you can see I-79, Bridgeville Cloverleaf, the other Cloverleaf, the Kerwin Heights Cloverleaf. But what I wanted to show you is from a historical perspective. The first major attempt to widen Washington Pike occurred, I think, in 1990, right by the Bridgeville, as a matter of fact, right where Calusi Motors is, from the bridge, about 400 yards from the South End Bridge into South Fayette, this area here. Excuse me. The Business District Association, we hired the GAI Engineering Company to make a study of that area, to tell us how wide the roads should be and where the left-turn stacking lane should be. And they told us that the area from the South End Bridge up through South Fayette for at least 400 or 500 yards should be 4 lanes wide, primarily so that 2 lanes of consumer motorists could come from South Fayette into Bridgeville, and the same 2 lanes of consumer motorists would be able to go from Bridgeville to South Fayette. Unfortunately, PennDOT didn't do it that way. They did it the way it's been until about the last 2 years. And the additional cost of doing it the way the GAI engineering people wanted us to do it, which would have been good for Bridgeville and South Fayette's business district, only cost $32,000 more at the time because the federal government was paying for 80% of the cost. That's just one effort by PennDOT to restrict traffic flow in Washington Pike.
How many years ago was that?
That was 1990. As a matter of fact, right after that.
So 30 years ago, 32,000.
I didn't hear you.
30 years ago, 32,000.
Yes, it was in the newspapers and it was obvious. The other thing I want to mention is,
Bob, excuse me.
Sure.
Thank you, Verducci. Was a good answer. I already wrote that. At one point when you begin to say we, the engineer, who you refer to we?
sure, we is the Bridgeville South Fayette Collier Business District Association, of which I was the president at the time, and I think I was on the planning commission here at the time, excuse me, and I'm still president of the Business District Association.
In the 90s, Bob, excuse me, I know we are the Bridgeville South Fayette Collier corridor, which I was the delegate over there.
Right.
And we meet every once a month, twice a month, at 7 o'clock in a.m. So this is completely different from the one you're talking about.
I
They
don't,
stood,
I don't know.
because you mentioned the
I
same
don't know what you're-
terms,
I don't know what
that
you're
I
talking about.
was delegate over there. And when I quit that, the mayor, Dolby took my place, and that committee was consisting of PennDOT, the state, the community. I mean, everybody was, all the big engineering firm was there.
Are you talking about the Route 50 corridor?
Route 54.
Ah, I didn't know
Now,
what
I
you
want to
meant.
know,
Okay.
if you associate, you whatever you call it, you were completely separate from
Oh,
that,
yeah,
right?
We were not part of the Route 50 corridor mission. We were
That's
separate.
all the question I want. I don't know it was another, I don't know that the corridor had a competition at the time, but that's okay. Go ahead, you can continue.
Okay, well, it wasn't competition, we were trying to achieve the same thing, but
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned that, by the way. This is a,
Whatever.
this is a newspaper article. I want to just go off on this tangent for a minute. This is a newspaper article about the Route 50 Corridor Commission. And the plan that the Route 50 Corridor Commission, if you remember with it, after a year or two of study, the way they decided to solve the traffic congestion problem on Washington Pike in Bridgeville, Safed and Collier, was to build two major roads from I-79 east and west over to the Route 19 Business District in Upper St. Clair and Mount Lebanon. And if you want to take a look at that, I don't want to vary from that. I want to stick to this issue here. I want to just mention some of the other things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's, I mean, you're talking about a lot of historical stuff.
yeah,
We've
yeah,
been-
but I want to show how they all fit together. And that was the first thing that the PennDOT put a restriction on traffic from the corridor. The second one was the Kerwin Heights interchange. They built the Kerwin Heights interchange primarily, and they, again, made Washington Pike go from 4 lanes to 2 through lanes. And primarily that was to possibly get, this is Vanadium Road, and that, you know, from the tunnel that you drive under on Vanadium Road, the plan, and I have another drawing of that plan, was to go from the tunnel straight up to the Kerwin Heights exit. Once again, what their aim was to, excuse me, was to get traffic moving east and west from I-79 to the Route 19 business districts. And the basis for this, as we all know, the day that they built the Bridgeville exit on I-79, 75% of the consumer motorists that used to drive down Washington, or down Route 19 through the Liberty Tunnels to Pittsburgh disappeared. The South Hills Village Mall was sold shortly after that. The other thing I'm trying to point, just to wrap this up, Quinados, these things, these projects that PennDOT is allegedly doing on Washington Pike have been to obstruct traffic flow. The 6-lane foot widening of the bridge by the Presbyterian Church was what they were planning to do before some of us found out about it and stopped it. Now they're building a 7-lane bridge. And the other thing I want to mention to you is this is the Boyce Road, those little red dashes there, that's the proposed Boyce Road interchange that was part of, it's on that plan and some of the other things that I have here. But these individual, leaving Washington, not continuing the 4-lane widening of Washington Pike from Collier through Bridgeville, all of these things have been projects authored by PennDOT, obviously. My point is, the comprehensive plan, I don't think your lawsuit is going to succeed against PennDOT because, for various reasons. I think, however, I think you have the tool or the device to protect the future of Bridgeville. If you, excuse me, if you use these examples of PennDOT's discriminatory spending of federal and state funds, not to help the Route 50, the Washington Pike corridor business districts, but to obstruct them, I think your comprehensive plan, if it calls for the 4-lane widening of Washington Pike through Bridgeville to Lafayette, and the 4-lane widening of Bower Hill Road from the Painters Run Road intersection to Washington Pike. I think proposing that to the county, state, and feds as a regional solution to this destructive traffic congestion problem will get you what you want. But I don't want to get into the details on this now, but that's the Route 50. No, incidentally, the Route 50 Corridor Commission wasn't created by the businesses or the public officials on Route 50. It was created by the officials in Upper St. Clair and Mount Vernon. They came here, and what I just showed you, their solution to our problem was to detour 40 to 50,000 consumer motorists a day from I-79 over to Route 19. Incidentally, there's 80,000 vehicles a day using I-79, as I'm sure Joe will tell you. But anyway, I just wanted to review with you what's going on. Don't count on PennDOT to help you with any of it, okay? Think for yourself, and don't have your comprehensive plan be a compromising solution to the traffic congestion problem in this community. You've got to solve it totally.
I assure you, Bob, we are, with the committees that we have in place, we are considering all aspects of your information you give us, what we, conversations with PennDOT, conversations with our neighbors.
Good,
We're taking all that into account.
good. I was going to say, I'll move these out of the way.
That's good. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? She has her hand. Okay, let's move on to regular order of business. Try to get through without coughing. I got an itch at the conference. A motion to approve, or I need a motion to approve the March 14th, 2022 regular meeting minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved? Opposed? Motion approved. I need a motion to approve the April 2022 bill list.
Did you say move, Costa?
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. We had a motion,
I'll move.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No motion passes. Need a motion to approve the April 15th, 22nd, 29th, and May 6th payrolls.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-3, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, disposing of records in compliance with the Municipal Records Manual approved on July 16th, 1993, in accordance with Act 428 of 1968.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-6, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, offering the submission of a grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the Bridgeville Playground Improvements Project. Note that this project seeks $272,640 to upgrade playground equipment at both Cook School and McLaughlin Parks.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now I need a motion to amend the agenda to change item number 6. Need a motion to change the agenda.
Motion to change?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 now reads, I need a motion to award the base bid and add alternates 1 and 2. The contract to Melee & Sons as the low bidder in the amount of $806,137.50, subject to Melee & Sons Incorporated obtaining the required insurance certificates, performance bond, and payment bond, and review and approval of same by the borough solicitor prior to the execution of the agreement by the borough, and also authorize the execution of change order number 1, deducting the electrical improvements at Church's Park in the amount of $110,550, for a final contract value being $695,587.50.
I so move.
Second.
Any comments? Joe, can we explain the removal of that electric piece?
Sure. The bids for Chartiers Park included pretty much more than just paving of the road and the parking lot. It included some ancillary work, including guardrails and replacing the 5 streetlights within the park. The bids for the 5 streetlights alone were $110,000. It exceeded the engineer's expectations and essentially our budget. So the recommendation is to do that as a standalone electrical project, hopefully getting a better price.
And there's other bids, second bidder had a much lower price on the electrical, so there is a better price out there, so we recommend not awarding it.
If you look at the bid tab sheet, just go across for the light poles, and you'll see, like Kevin noted, it's essentially almost half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at that point, do we put it out for bid again for just that work? And will we do that soon, or is that?
I think we're doing it now.
Yeah.
We were just around with it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any additional comments?
Yeah, how much do we have budgeted for roads this year?
350,000, and the bids came in at 375,000. We have a considerable budget in there for base repairs. Fortunate, we're hoping that we don't have to do all that base repair, and then it comes in within our budget.
Does either project depend on one another? Do the
No.
light poles occur?
That's why the change order was got up front.
Any other questions? Okay, had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to authorize the advertisement and release the flood hazard mitigation demolition project, Baldwin and Martin Street properties for public bid.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to authorize the purchase of police body worn camera equipment at a cost of $24,328 from Motorola Solutions at our state contract pricing. Note that the project is half funded by a grant from the United States Small Rural and Tribal Body Worn Camera Program.
I so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have to assume that most other communities have these.
Pretty much, lots of did do.
I need a motion to accept and pay any commissions due March 2022 real estate tax collector report.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the March 2022 treasurer's report.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I need a motion to accept the March 2022 police report.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries. There's a light month.
Yeah, it was nice.
Obviously, it's beautiful. I'll take it one more.
Yeah. All right, other committee reports, administration.
Yeah, how's it going, buddy? Recently had the opportunity to go out to Elam with some of our peers here. It was a wonderful experience. We got to meet some other communities and discuss some of their problems and some of their ideas. We shared back and forth, so it was very productive. In honor of Earth Day, we're going to have a cleanup week on April 23rd through the 29th. Bridgeville Borough is holding Earth Cleanup Week so community members can clean up their neighborhood or park. We will have supplies here on Tuesday, April 19th through Friday, April 22nd, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Borough office. Products will include safety vests, gloves, garbage bags. The participants can also register for a special raffle. Cleanup will be Saturday, April 23rd through Friday, April 29th at your own convenience. So please, if you have any questions or you know any groups or individuals who are interested, please get the word out. And if you have any further questions, just call the Borough office. We'll be happy to get you in the right direction. That's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions for Nick?
So cleanup days, it could be like,
It's a week.
yeah, is it like maybe like teams, like, hey, you go over here, you go over here?
You can get your own team and you can go wherever you like.
You pick your own project?
You may. Within, don't want you going to the.
Can't be your base,
You're right. Don't pop anybody's specs, and we're okay. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll echo Nick's comments. I felt it was a very worthy conference, and networking with some of our peers and neighbors was a good thing. Aside from the 3 or 4 inches of snow that was on our vehicle Saturday morning, it was a nice weekend. So, Finance, Joe, introduce you.
The 2021 audit has been completed. There is going to be a financial report presented to the council in an up and coming meeting. Any idea when, Joe? April, May?
Not April.
Okay. Oh, not April, yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping May.
Okay.
It hasn't been confirmed.
All right. The garbage billing, you can now receive your quarterly bill electronically via email. You sign up for that on the website, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the garbage collection procedures, we had the solicitor review a policy, and the finance committee is going to meet to have put some comments together or questions prior to submitting that to the board. And the Federal CARES Act funding is being completed, and the borough will now be eligible to take on a standard deduction from the COVID losses that were resulted because of COVID. So therefore, the CARES funding for any essential government function can be used. So the good part is Joe won't have to do a whole bunch of work to be able to legitimize where the money goes. So I think that's going to definitely take a little bit of extra work off of your plate. So that's pretty good. Other than that, that's all I have.
Any questions for Joe? Okay, Parks and Rec, Joe Colosimo.
Okay, we're taking reservations for the shelters in the park, so anybody interested, call the office and try and hook you up. We had a graffiti situation down McLaughlin Park, I guess, a couple of weeks before we get the cameras put in down there, but Public Works took care of it, so I guess this will never go away, whatever. Bridgeville Day meeting is tomorrow here at the Borough Building at 6 o'clock. Anybody interested, come on down. Look forward to see you all there. That's it.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions for Joe? Good. Okay, Public Works, Nina.
Well, I have a long list that mostly concern internal here, but only I want to say that the spring curbside brushing collection, it's underway, and that will be April the 4th and April 29th. We did maintain some maintenance, removing snow, but hope that's over. And the rest, you have all the other detail in my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Nina? Okay, Public Safety, Bruce.
I don't have anything, sir.
Thank you, Bruce. Any questions for Bruce? Mayor, Betty Copeland.
At the conference this weekend, we were presented with a certificate for being a banner community, and Councilman Petroselli, Councilman Colosimo, and myself stood in front of hundreds of people getting us one picture taken, and then they just told us to go over to the table and pick up the certificate, so we did bring it back to the borough. I have a proclamation proclaiming May 1st to 7th, 2022 as Small Business Week. Whereas America's strongest economic growth in almost 40 years has been driven by the resilience of our small businesses, who despite a worldwide pandemic continue to pioneer innovative solutions to our country's greatest challenges and create opportunities for families and workers. And whereas from the storefront shops that anchor Washington Avenue to the high-tech startups that keep America on the cutting edge, to the small manufacturers driving our competitiveness on the global stage, small businesses are the backbone of our economy and the cornerstones of our nation's promise. And whereas we support small business, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture. And whereas because this country's 32.5 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in our economy, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur economic growth in America without discussing ways to support our entrepreneurs. And whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed National Small Business Week every year since 1963 to highlight the programs and services available to entrepreneurs through the U.S. Small Business Administration and other government agencies. And whereas the Borough of Bridgeville supports and joins in this national effort to help America's small businesses do what they do best, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our local communities remain as vibrant tomorrow, as they are today. Now, therefore, I, Betty L. Copeland, Mayor of Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, do hereby proclaim May 1st through May 7th, 2022 as National Small Business Week, approved in testimony whereof I have set my hand and caused the seal of the Borough of Bridgeville to be affixed this day of April 11, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the mayor? Well said. Well said. Police chief's absent. Solicitor, Tom McDermott.
Thank you. You have my written report. If you have any questions, otherwise I'm going to move through that after that.
Any questions for the solicitor? All right, Borough Engineer, Kevin Brett.
Could hand those that way. We did submit in our report. Only one update. Joe had asked me to give a update on the regionalization item transfer of interceptors, which is McLaughlin Run interceptor from the borough and the upstream communities over to Elkasan. Your section, there's 2 different interceptors. One connects to C54, the other one connects to C5310. Location-wise, both of those are on Commercial Street. C5310, if you go all the way down Commercial Street, straight ahead on the roadway, the outfall, the connection to the interceptor is down there. The other one runs right along the stream, C54. If you follow the blue line through the borough on the map, that's the segment that's, or segments that are looking to be transferred over to Elkasan. It's something at the end of the day you're definitely going to want to do. But prior to that, one of the things that the borough had to do is do any repairs. There's 2 segments. The stream, or the section along the stream, along Commercial Street, could not be televised. They got to a point where they couldn't get any further. We subsequently, the borough's been doing some televising, and we can get access into that segment. We are going to send Joe a letter recommending the borough go ahead and complete the televising and cleaning of that section, and then if there's any repairs necessary, the borough would have to make the repairs on that section. We also have determined there's a point when the 2 interceptors were built on Baldwin Street that they crossed over, and a lot of the flow goes to C5310, and it should go to the C54. How the sewers were constructed needs to be disconnected and reconnected so that the flow goes where it should have, and it will eliminate about, and it's in our report, about 18 million gallon annually by doing that disconnection and reconnection. We did submit a road grant on March 30th to help with funding on that to Elkasan. We're hopeful that gets funded, because if it does, you'll complete that project over the next year if it gets funded, once it gets approved. That project would be completed, get the televising completed, and then it would be ready to further discussions with Elkasan for the sewer to be dedicated over to them or transferred to them. Prior to that, and for next month's meeting, there's a resolution that Elkasan had sent over. I'll get with Tom. The first step is to have the resolution passed, and your intent is to dedicate or transfer the sewer over. At this point, not actually sign the transfer agreement. You could if you wanted to. I think in this case, we better make sure the condition of the line, make sure what expenditures you got ahead of you, and then sign the transfer agreement after those repairs are completed and everything's in position. What the resolution does is permit and lets Elkison go to DEP, get all the original permits if they have been filed. If they weren't filed, they'll actually prepare the permits for the interceptor and get it permitted through DEP. Because some of these interceptors, they haven't been able to find the actual permits when they were built with the department. So the resolution next month would let that happen. And then that would be step one. While that's going on, we do want to get this CCTV work done. You have a contractor in town now. It'd be about $45,000 to do the CCTV cleaning. The reason that is these are large lines. They're not your 8-inch lines and so forth. So it's probably a pretty heavy cleaning amount in there. So that's, looking at the contract, that's what it would be. Since you do have them under contract, we do recommend doing that work and getting that process moving. Because this is one of those assets that it definitely behooves the borough not to own it long term, because it's a multi-municipal interceptor that has many people involved with it. And I think Bethel Park has already moved forward with their first little piece, and then it's Upper St. Clair, and then it comes down through into the borough. So over the next year, hopefully we get there and can get it transferred over. So
When it's transferred, being the money guy, do we get anything out of this other than not having to pay to get it fixed in the future? That's pretty much
Get rid of
it.
the use liability.
Yep, and there is some in agreement, in a future meeting, Tom can go through this. His group is heavily involved with the agreement, how it's prepared. It has doors that close basically after 12 years. There's liability for the community on certain aspects of things, laterals, things like that, along the interceptor for 12 years. And then that door closes, but each thing has its own criteria. We'll have to go through and show you what that is. No matter, it's still going to be a good thing for you to dedicate over or transfer it over, even with those elements that you have some liability, because you have it today. If you can limit it and it goes away in 12 years, it's a better thing for the community. So
Their plan is to acquire them and then enlarge it, correct? Their future billion-dollar plan.
within some time frame under the consent decree. The thing is, once it transfers from you to them, it will become their responsibility, and then the timing goes within whatever their consent decree would be. It may be 20 years, it could be 40 years, but it becomes theirs to do, instead of, if it's overflowing, being yours to do the upsizing, so they would pay for it.
I mean, that right away gives them the ability to go through with the bigger stuff they were talking about.
That's one of the things they look at is does the right of ways actually exist? And they go through and they do that research, and it may or may not. They may say for a period of time, they may want you to help clear that or not, but that's kind of the next step to figure that out. So.
And also in terms of the liability and the work that's being done, the work that Kevin's talking about getting done before the transfer, that's kind of critical repair work. It's
Yes,
not the entire rehab. It's kind of they use a NASCO or some kind of standard that we have to do kind of holes in the tire versus, maybe.
If you have felony type, you gotta fix it.
Yeah.
Not if there's a capacity issue, so. So at the end of the day, like I said, it's something, because you're on the bottom end of the system, you don't want to pay for upgrades for everybody along the way, so transferring it makes a whole lot of sense for you, so.
And then they're spreading the cost across the entire county ratepayer base as opposed to your ratepayer base or even in tandem with the two other communities as well.
We know it was coming. We knew that
Exactly.
a few years ago. We have to fix it before we turn it,
Yes.
Yeah, Joe, Nick, and I sat through a presentation at the conference, and I think you can actually see that same presentation on their website right now. It'll show you what they're doing. So.
Kimberly Slater is with Elkison, so.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
They They came to our office this past Friday before, and reviewed all of our clients' current status. So we knew where everybody was, who had what. So it was a good meeting. Very, very, it was very good to hear what the long-term plan is.
Good. Any questions for the engineer? Okay, Fire Chief Ray Costello.
Hello, everyone. We finished last month with a total of 39 calls. The only thing to report other than that, we do have an upcoming fundraiser on April 30th, which is a comedy show. In addition, we, as everyone knows, we had the Easter egg hunt this past Saturday. One of these years, hopefully we're fortunate with 60-degree weather where we have no rain or snow, but unfortunately that was the case this year. That I think the numbers were down just due to weather, but everyone who was there had a great time.
Good. Any questions for the chief?
Yeah. Can we get older age brackets next year?
I'm sorry?
Can we have older age brackets next year instead of just, up to 9 years old, maybe go to 12, and then 12 to 16, then 16, 21, 21 to 60?
So out of curiosity, are you looking for adult gift baskets? Is that what we're going?
Well, just more children age brackets, but yeah, that too.
I'll pass the word on to the committee.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, South Virginia, Miss Dan Miller.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Questions for Dan? Mayor, you have anything from Mary Wise for the Historical Society?
Our April 26th program, Tuesday, 7:30 at Chartiers Room, will be Theodore Roosevelt, How He Changed America, presented by Glenn Flickinger.
Thank you. Bridgeville Library Representative, Ray.
This past weekend, we had a used book sale, and Sunday with the raffling off the baskets. It gave me an indication how many books we had. We had the shed full of books. By the end of the weekend, the shed was completely empty. The books that weren't sold, we had donated to the seniors or to the vets. So it was a very good weekend. April 23rd coming up is going to be a garden exchange. Anybody want to do transplants of plants and so forth, come down to the library, you can exchange it for another plant if you want to change your garden. Some projects we have had on hold because of COVID. We're looking at the carpeting, remodeling the children's area. That's been on hold since 2019, giving an indication of how things have been on hold. And the Friends want to put a clock above the fireplace with books. The opportunity now we have is trying to get books with the numbers on for the clock. So that's kind of what we're working on for the 60th anniversary. So.
Your shed might be empty, but my truck is full of Newbery Award-winning books. Thank you.
Gary, don't forget about the story wall.
Oh, that's right. The story wall project.
We're having our meeting about the installation in about a week with the Rotary Club, the library, and Joe, just to coordinate everything. And that will be a service project for us to start to put that together.
I apologize, I forgot.
No, I was going to mention it.
I'm glad you brought it up.
I wanted to make you look good.
Cool, that's all.
So with the garden exchange, I just dig something up, bring it up.
And so if you care to exchange it, yeah, if someone wants to take it, they may not take it, don't get offended.
It has to be from my yard though, right?
Preferably, yeah.
No, yeah. I know people who would be actually very interested. I'll make sure I get the word out.
Okay. Parking Authority, nobody here for that?
I got one thing for parking
Oh,
authority.
yeah, go ahead.
We ran into an issue, just to update council. Every now and again, we apply for grants for the parking authority. We ran into an issue. There's some of the county grants that they, the way the authority's formed, they can't apply for the grants, but you can. So those ones we're gonna mark, and we'll talk to Joe about those. You may have to be the sponsor for the parking authority to actually apply for grants to redo parking lots, things like that within town. Just because how the authority's set up, they don't acknowledge it. Because it has to be really, it's really narrow what they permit, and it's not very many authorities. Like sewer authority would be okay, or water authority, but parking authorities, even if people have some recreation authorities, they can't apply, their municipalities have to. So in the future, as those come up, I'll let you know. It's some of the gaming money, things like that, they're very narrow requirements. It's mostly geared around municipalities applying. So as long as you're okay with that, I'll bring those forward to Joe, because they're probably can get money for it in certain grant situations.
So are they coming to you with these grants and?
We have them, we know what they've looked for in the past, so we keep an eye out for them, and we applied for a few, like 2-3 years back, like GDF, things like that. Haven't ever got funded, but some of these other ones they could, to get the parking lots redone, basically, so.
So we have to manage, council gotta manage this.
You just gotta sponsor it, they can manage it. Some of these, even for nonprofits, we've had some of our communities, people come to, and they say, can you sponsor us?
I personally rather manage their,
That'd be fun.
we can talk about it. This is something like the Keystone that we got for the library, we got it through the, it's completely different, but the
It's similar to
management,
that,
it's a big, that's what I would prefer. If we involve as a sponsor, I would rather us to manage. That'd be my
Well,
suggestion.
with that also said, we should also suggest maybe, in their last public meeting, they said that, about, the budget wasn't necessary to prepare one, so maybe we can have a conversation in regards to that as well as if we're going to be a sponsor, so.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be more further discussion based on
Yeah,
them
I agree.
Because
needing that.
we think in like 6 months, there's gonna be another round of this type of funding.
Because
We've got to try to sprinkle projects out, and that may be something.
Because if there's any bids done, which it will be, we will manage that. That's what I would like to do. Yeah, exactly, that's what I would like to do.
So we just
I
wanna,
wouldn't just
I guess,
be a sponsor.
figure out how you want to proceed with that, so that we're not behind the 8 ball next.
We can do
Yeah, I think they
that.
actually missed one, didn't they, this last month or something?
Yes, but like, it's also a grant program that the borough applied for, so like hypothetically, which ones, what's our priority here? The parking lots or like the borough infrastructure? So it's really gonna be something we need to,
You got to balance.
we gotta balance and make sure like, what do we have in the irons in the fire of that cycle?
And you may get a call and say, there's more money in this fund than that fund, because this last round, it had like 10 tentacles to it. So nobody really knew exactly which one was gonna be the one to get the most funding. So communities put in all of it because of that, so.
Like,
Do they have to go to Bridgeville Borough for a sponsorship? Like if Bridgeville says, hey, we can't sponsor you, they look elsewhere for another organization to sponsor, like a higher up, like.
Pretty much the
Allegheny
grants that
County?
we looked at, well, it's coming through Allegheny County. It comes through from the state to Allegheny County.
Right.
And then down to the local municipality would be the sponsor. Or an authority, but in their case, we sent the charter over and it wasn't set up the way that.
So they're stuck with the council?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Nick's asking a question, does your firm represent them as their engineering group, or?
They came to us for a parking lot plan at one point and asked us if we would do it, which I did. And we actually never got paid, but we did that. But it's something that's good for the borough, so.
Right. It's something they should have asked us if they went to you.
Well, Gateway always did that.
Well, they should ask.
So, yeah, we did some help on that at the end of the day.
Yeah, there should be no problem there.
Any questions for Kevin?
Thank you.
Okay, planning commission, Justine.
Well, we had a healthy discussion regarding trailers parked on borough streets and decided that since there are so few and that they were more of a nuisance than a hazard, that we would let that one stand. Second conversation that we had was in regards to people actually placing their cars on their front yard with, although they have gravel on there, they're parking their cars in front of their house, right in a minimum space. especially on McLaughlin Road. So the question that we had was, what do other communities do? So Bill was kind enough to do some research as that, and I think it was Mike that had the comment in regards to curb, if we wanted to limit a curb cut to like 8 foot, so that at least the front of the yard would have some green space. So that we're going to probably discuss at the next planning meeting. Old business, active transportation plan, we're still looking for the report. So we will look at the next to final report and discuss that, and then present it to council, hopefully in May. We'll see.
On that, the first thing you mentioned about trailers on the streets, we have an ordinance?
The ordinance is only if it's a hazard. So if I park at mid-block and I'm there, so I can only park car, and it really isn't a hazard, it's permitted. So it needs to become a hazard, like out on the road, obstructing vision, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Any questions for Justine? Borough Manager, Joe Cowell.
A couple things. Last week, we had an accident on Washington Avenue where a tractor trailer took out the mast arm for the traffic signal and a light pole and a pedestrian push-button signal post at Station Street. So it's a significant damage on our side. The Public Works is working to put the light pole back up this week. The mast arm, so I'm reporting, needs replaced, but it's 9 months to a year out for that mast arm to come in. The traffic systems is our contractor maintaining their traffic signals for us, is working with PennDOT to see if we can get their approval to cheat that back a little bit from the corner so that maybe this wouldn't happen as bad in the future. So there's going to be an insurance claim filed. We had insurance for the truck. The police were fortunate to catch the guy who fled the scene, and he was caught down in Presto. So we have all that information, but the claim is probably going to be over a year. So it was big, but it was kind of silly. It was a tandem tractor trailer that came on Station Street. So. On your agenda was the bid opening, or authorizing the bids for the flood demos. It's tentative to have that bid opening for May 4th, so that would be on your May agenda. And we're on track to have work to be commenced and completed by early summer. And that's also in line with the blight removal projects that we were pulled the trigger on last month. So early summer, we're looking at about 10 homes that are either blighted, condemned, or flood properties taken care of. There's a grant project that we got to replace catch basins on Darby and Station Street. That work got started actually today. They were supposed to start last week, but the rain kicked them off. But he's working out, so you see the little alley in Station Street closures, what's going on there. I sent you guys an email. There was a landslide on Union Street over the weekend. The engineer was able to come out yesterday to take a look at it. Public Works put barricades there today. We coordinated with the property owner to see if we can get access to the property, so we'll be talking to Tom soon. But with that, just it's the same drill we did with Warner Avenue. The engineer put out an RFP to get geotechnical survey work done so that a scope can be put together so we get this project moving ahead. Our hope is maybe we can piggyback and bundle this project with the Warner Street wall. It's essentially the same type of repair. So Joe had a good advice. Maybe we get some flashing lights on those Jersey barriers. It's hard to see them, but we need to keep the vehicles off their fence, which is been over the hill. So within the next week and a half, we'll have some flashing lights there. So that's what we got going on there. It's rather unfortunate, but it's just, it's
It's at that first pole on the, going up the right, it's the last pole on the right?
I'm talking about Union Street.
Oh, Union, sorry.
Yeah, this is across 188 Union, and you're talking, you're right, so if you're going up Station Street,
Yeah.
it's the first pole on the right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much happened before, the same one.
Yeah, we've, in the past though, like the ornamental light pole,
You
we've
remember
been
that.
knocked out a lot, we've replaced it a great deal, but the signal arm is new. Our light pole has been like the sacrificial lamb every year, but the mast arm is what is kind of, it's big for us.
Mike, you have a comment?
That was going to be my question, like how many times is the mast pulled? Because I know one of them keeps getting hit all the time, like if it takes a year to get one, get two. You know,
Yeah.
because we're gonna get hit again.
That's right.
But you said this is the first time that one's been hit?
The mast arm.
Okay.
The light pole has been hit. Since I've been here, this is the third time.
I was gonna say, it seems like you hit all the time.
Are there other options?
No, it's a good thing. So right now, you go up there, you see everything all marked out, like one call was done, so we know where the utilities are, so that we can move that thing just back a little bit, and then that will result in our lag post being moved as well. So we're looking like a year for that. So our guys are just setting the pole now, because it's silly to leave that exposed for potentially a year. So just understand what was going on there.
I'd like to make one point. The McLaughlin Run flood control GEDF projects, Janeway and the ball field trash racks. It's amazing that we did not have to pay, we paid less than $1,000 out of that whole project. Am I reading that
The
correct?
construction, correct. Yeah, it was very impressive that Janeway and the ball field was one grant project. And we submitted a reimbursement last month after the council meeting, because we closed out the work. And you did the math, it was only $980 for the borough for that capital. Like the soft costs were out of the borough's pocket, but the actual construction, yeah, you guys did a good job with that.
Huge.
Last question on that, actually, the Janeway. Now, that's not supposed to let the water come out of the creek basin at all.
I can understand your question.
So when we put in the steel doors, water's still getting through gaps, actually through bricks when you go down.
You still get water in the bottom.
Yeah.
It fills up in a.
Jumbo blocks are,
And is there any way to seal them, is my question.
Someone already tried to.
Yeah, I don't think the answer is great stuff in the cracks.
yeah, because it's just a jumbo block, it's gravity wall. Yeah, it's not meant to be 100%.
You see it on Maple, when the water gets high, you see it.
Yeah, it
going
seeps
through
through,
the-
yeah.
It's the way it's constructed.
Yeah, because that's the way the gravity wall is. So.
I just didn't know if there was any.
But someone definitely vandalized that wall, like it looks really bad. It's a shame what that person did.
I took a look at it after I talked to you. I agree with you. Any questions for Joe? Under new business, what do you have under new business? Going once, twice, 3 times. I'll take a motion for adjournment. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?